Trade is fundamental to any nation's economy, whether that is buying things that we can't produce or selling to others what we can. It is the basis for all business and prosperity. Trade deals govern a huge amount of where we trade and how. And for the past 45 years, Brussels has told us who we can trade with and how. More than 600 firms in Wales export over £5 billion worth of goods to the EU, largely machinery, with 200,000 jobs linked to trade with Europe. So I can understand why people are concerned with what will happen after Brexit. Thanks to the EU single market, supply chains across Europe can be very complex. One car assembled in Britain can be made up of parts manufactured in many different EU countries, being shipped from place to place in the EU during the process. The fear is that, without a free trade deal, each time car parts leave one country for another, they could be taxed. This has been used to argue that Britain must stay in the single market. However, if we remain members of the EU single market, all our trade continues to be controlled by Brussels. It would also mean we would have to keep free movement of people, pay a membership fee, and continue to let the EU make up the rules, like forcing us to charge tariffs on other countries and giving them the money. Almost every single country in the world has access to the EU single market, meaning they can sell into it and buy from it without having to be a member. While it is impossible for Britain to keep single market membership and leave the EU in any meaningful way, we can strike a trade deal with the EU. And this would be in the interest of not just the UK, but the countries of the EU too. The biggest advantage we have is the fact that we run a trade deficit with Europe of £70 billion a year, meaning we buy more from them than they do from us. It's in everybody's interest that we do have a trade deal. However, it is vital that we do leave the single market so that we can start exploring trade opportunities with the rest of the world. Wales exports to many countries outside of Europe, like America and the Middle East, but Brussels decides whether we charge tariffs on these exports and then keeps money when we do. This has really prevented us from expanding our markets across a globalized world. One such example is with steel. Because Brussels controls our tariffs, we could do nothing about countries like China dumping cheap steel, which saw manufacturing in Wales really suffer. We couldn't even provide state aid to help keep plants open while a solution was found, as this is banned under EU rules. For the first time in decades, as one of the world's biggest economies, the UK is in a position to write its own trade policy fit for the 21st century that reaches out to the entire world, rather than just focusing on Europe, whose global market share decreases every year. Trade that helps us to make fair arrangements with poorer nations, to help lift them out of poverty, and trade that suits our own very unique set of industries and economic needs. For decades, we've let others decide what is best for us, even though we are the world's 5th largest economy. For years, we've had to comply with rules written in Brussels by faceless individuals at the mercy of big business with great lobbying power, not rules made with Wales in mind. While it is a daunting time, it is a time of great opportunity. It is truly the beginning of a new era, but to make a success of Brexit, we need strong political leadership and bold vision, not scared politicians terrified of trying something new. For the first time in a generation, the power to decide what happens next is back in our hands as we become a self-governing, independent trading nation. But only when we leave the EU and the single market.
You didn't frankly have the balls to put country before party.